What's going on, everybody? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming here, and we're going to talk about a weird topic today. And that topic is censorship and its effect in gaming. Now, I've mentioned one or two things about this before in the past, specifically that I can remember off the top of my head was to do with some of the controversial stuff in Detroit Become Human. But anyway, we're looking at a different side of it today. So, right now, or at least fairly recently, in the gaming media, the gaming industry, whatever way you want to look at it, there has been questions of Sony and censorship. Now, this particular video isn't specifically designed against Sony, but I will be using them heavily as the example because this applies to anyone. This applies to developers, this applies to publishers, this applies to Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, Valve, Epic, whoever, and basically anyone who runs a platform or controls a platform and has the ability to censor someone or make someone censor something to get their game on their platform, if that makes sense. It's a little bit all over the place, but hopefully it becomes clear what I'm talking about and what I'm mentioning and the very specifics when we actually get a little bit further into the video. So, like I said, Sony are the big focus of this video because they are the current example, the current poster boy for bad censorship. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment. You've probably heard of some of them. There are reports of the likes of Catherine Full Body Edition possibly being censored because of Sony's new policies, which are kind of unofficial because they're not explicitly stated anywhere, but they can still do things to prevent games and prevent systems and prevent whatever from actually launching. Another example is when you look at one of the Senran Kagura games. Fairly recently, one of them was actually announced and released. I believe it was released. And one of the features where you could basically touch the characters were removed from the game. It was removed from the PS4 version of the game. It's still intact on the Nintendo Switch version. Again, same deal with the new Dead or Alive Extreme game as well. You have the same thing. A lot of the features that are, well, let's call them, let's face it, we know why people buy Dead or Alive Extreme. One of the features regarding like clothes and bikini malfunctions and whatnot and jiggle physics has been removed from the PlayStation version but kept in other versions. I believe in this game it was only on the Switch as well, so it's kept in the Switch one. And of course there's one or two games out there, they're Japanese named games that I can't even hope to remember or pronounce, but Sony's actually blocked them from being launched on the PS4 or else removed them after launch. And this doesn't just go for Sony. Over the years, we've heard of all sorts of reasons why, I don't want to call these ones censorship, but companies not aligning with a certain thing portrayed in a certain game for their platform or whatever. I mean, hell, for the last 2 decades or so, just until maybe a little bit of the Wii U and more recently the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo have always kind of gone for a more wholesome, kiddie-friendly approach. A lot of their games, a very, very vast majority of their games, would not have extreme violence or gore. Obviously, there's one or two exceptions, like, say, Resident Evil and whatnot, but for the most part, they have been known to block games releasing on their system with any type of questionable stuff in them. Microsoft have done the same thing, so I'm not just hating on Nintendo and Sony, but a perfect example is years ago when Quantic Dream actually released Heavy Rain, they originally took that to Microsoft before they took it to Sony. Not many people know that, but Microsoft actually turned it down to release on their system because of the whole child kidnapping and endangerment thing. So obviously that game released on PlayStation as it was with those elements intact, but Microsoft didn't want something like that aligning with their system at the time. Obviously that was the Xbox 360. And in the broader sense of things, this basically applies to everything, not just games. Now I'm going to get into it in a second, and we're probably just going to go down the rabbit hole and all over the place. But let's be clear here, right? I'm not pro-censorship or pro-banning. Now, there are one or two things that I do believe should be completely, I don't know what's the best way to word it, completely not allowed in any way, shape, or form. You have a lot of those weird, it's not all of them, but there are a few games out there. You've got some dating simulators, you've got some visual novels and stuff, where the characters are clearly designed to be underage. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. That stuff should be banned completely. I completely agree with banning that kind of stuff. Now, back to what I'm talking about here. Here's one thing that in relation to censorship that completely blows my mind. This is just so strange to me, and I think this stems from the US, and because they're such a major player in basically the majority of media, in both games, you've got films, TV shows, just other media in general. And this is what always confuses me with the whole, I guess it's technically the government who controls that stuff in the US, but I mean, I'm one or two things are going to get lost in translation. I'm not American, so you'll have to bear with me on that one. But here is something I don't understand. You have so many things that they allow to be marketed. So many things like, I don't know, guns, gore, violence, death, all this stuff. Drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, in games. And they allow that by the arseload. There's pretty much no problem with that in any type of game whatsoever. But here's what completely blows my mind. This goes for TV, this goes for film, and this goes for games. But the very, very slightest hint of something sexual, and it's censored, it's banned, it's barred. No, not happening. I don't know, it completely blows my mind. Why is the line drawn there? Why are they so strict on that side of the fence versus everything else that's legitimately dangerous? That is, well, I say legitimately dangerous. I'm not saying, obviously there's scientific facts that prove that violence in video games and all, violent video games and violence in real life are not linked. But the point is that guns in real life kill people. Death, violence, blood, gore, all that stuff. That is, there's obviously inherent danger in that if it was translated to a real life situation. But no, you show a nipple on TV or a nipple in a game, banned. Change that, censor it, do something else with it. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense at all. And I just don't know. I mean, let's look back to what I mentioned in the previous video. I believe it was probably this time last year, just before Detroit Become Human launched, because there was a question about would some of the stuff in it be censored. And that, of course, was in relation to, spoiler alert, the game's been out for a year. If you haven't played it by now, well, I mean, nothing I can really do about it. But anyway, that's your little spoiler alert warning. The topic in question is down to child abuse. And, I mean, hell, just look at The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit and Life is Strange 2. There's questionable stuff in that to an extent as well. There's like child endangerment, child negligence, child abuse, there's some racism, all that stuff. That's in games. And in that case, it wasn't censored. But when you look at some of the other stuff, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me at all. Why be so hard on one side of the line? Now, I always joke about this with a couple of other people, because naturally I have lots of US friends, Canadian friends, Mexican friends, whatever, anyone on that side of the Atlantic. And I always live the joke, and I'm always, the free-spirited, sexually liberated European. I make the jokes about that. I'm not the most adventurous person in the world, but I always like to play it with the stereotypes and play with the jokes and all. There are situations on TV you have here, regular TV, not like special paid stuff, not special adult channels and all. Now, it's not here in Ireland, but it is here in Europe, where they will full on completely show everything on TV. They will do it in normal style TV shows. Hell, in Germany, there's a dating show where it's like, think of Survivor, where they just put people on an island, but it's basically a dating show where everyone is just completely naked on an island. You see everything on regular TV, it's just broadcast normally. There's another dating show where they can only see people from the waist down, and they have to pick everything there. So everyone's naked from the waist down, and you can only see the potential people that way. But I mean, something like that would not happen in the US whatsoever. I know I was tripping over my words there for a second, but something like that in the US just doesn't happen. Something like that in gaming, because of possibly these types of policies and all. I realize that's a bit extreme, but it could just maybe not happen. They would censor something like this. It all comes back to the values, the people in charge of these, the people who write these laws and rules, the values that they hold and the values that they deem to be true, which is a problem within itself, because that's not really objective, that's subjective. It's so strange, and like I said, there's a reason why we have well, I suppose there's a reason why different regions, because obviously the US one is different to the Australian one, which is different to the European one. We have rating systems. We have rating systems to advise people what's in these games and what is a suitable age for people to play these games. I know let's look at GTA 5 for example. Everything in that is not deemed appropriate for anyone under the age of 18. So therefore, no one under the age of 18 can legitimately, legally buy that game by themselves. They have to have a parent or guardian above the age of 18 there with them or buy it for them to get permission. So you see the point. That person is assuming the responsibility. I'm an adult. I'm nearly 33 years old. I can discern what's in a game and what's suitable and what's not suitable for me. I don't know why someone else has to stand in and say, no, that's not suitable for you. Perfect example of this is Australia. For the longest time, they had a situation where they banned many mature and adult games. Games that would be rated mature in America, or games that would be rated, I believe it's 18s here, or, rated R, 17 plus. I'm not 100% up on the American side of it. But the point is that these were games designed for adults. People who would know better. People who would not be easily influenced by the content of these games. People who would not see someone use drugs in a game and think, oh, using drugs is cool, I better go out and buy some crack. No, these are designed for people who are adults, who are mature, who can generally, hopefully at least, pick their own sense of morals and right or wrong in that regard. I don't know, it blows my mind completely. And the fact that the censorship in games can be a problem because that doesn't allow someone to tell their own story. For example, the whole thing at the moment going on with Catherine Full Body is some of the stuff is potentially going to be censored in that. Some of the stories possibly be going to change. I say possibly because we don't know if it actually was or it wasn't, or it's very weird. Just bear with me on that. I'm sure if you know the game, you know all the stuff around it, and you know the alleged controversy and stuff too. But the fact is that a developer, a writer, story creator, story crafter, all this studio, they made a game, and then someone is coming along and saying, even though your game is designed for people of 18 or older who can understand the situation, the context, and everything in this game, we're saying no. That just makes no sense to me. I don't get it at all. Personally, I wish nothing was censored except that obviously weird, fucked up kiddie stuff that you find in like certain graphic novels and certain dating simulators and stuff. That stuff should be gone completely. But other than that, no. Leave all the regular stuff that normal people can use their own proper judgment on. That normal people can discern right, wrong, should I do this, should I not, whatever it is. We don't need people stepping in to do that for us. Anyway, let me know in the comment section below what you think about the whole, let's call it censorship situation. The whole banning, blocking, censorship situation. Have any of the games that you like been affected by it in any way, shape or form? Do you know of ones, even if they weren't for you? Or what's the deal? Where do you sit on the whole topic? In basically any sense of it. Anyway, let me know all of that in the comment section below. Hit the appropriate button to let me know how I did on the video. And while you're at it, why not head on over and hit the subscribe button. Even ring that little notification bell. Because granted, getting a notification from YouTube in current year about a new video upload or live stream or whatever is a whole other story. But hey, at least you can say you tried, am I right? As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.